Long before streaming was a thing, she was the girl with the golden voice who lit up TV and radio displays. Petula Clark's charm made her a global celebrity, and she gave us classic tunes like Downtown. Behind the music, however, she has led an intriguing life filled with love, family, and resiliency. Many people now wonder how she spends her days at the age of 92. Does she still perform? After all these years, how is her health holding up? What is the current state of her world? Come along with us as we explore her life and journey in greater detail. Let's start at the very beginning, though. Early life of Petula Clark. On November 15, 1932, Petula Clark was born in Ewell, Surrey, England, as Sally Clark. Both of her parents, Leslie and Doris, were nurses at Epsom's Longgrove Hospital. Her father was English, and her mother's family was Welsh. There was a humorous backstory to Petula's unique first name. In jest, her father made it by fusing the names of Ola and Pet, two of his former girlfriends. She ended up becoming one of the most well-known musicians as a result of that humorous prank. Clark grew up mostly in Aberystwyth, a Welsh community close to Merthyr Tydfil, where her grandfather was a coal miner. In 1939, she performed for the first time at the Collier's Arms in Aberystwyth. She subsequently recalled her time spent during the Blitz living just outside of London. She talked of going to air raid shelters with her sister when the sirens rang and about seeing fights in the skies. Her first interaction with the BBC occurred when she was just 8 years old. Youngsters were encouraged to record messages for family members who were in the military. The Criterion Theatre, which was underground and secure during air raids, served as the location for the recordings. Some kids became agitated as the sirens sounded. A request was made for someone to sing in order to soothe the crowd. Petula boldly took the stage and began singing "Mighty Like a Rose." Her voice was so good that the producers decided to record her. Her entire life would be shaped by the journey that began with that one moment. Petula had a unique talent for imitation and enjoyed singing in the chapel choir as a child. She frequently imitated celebrities like Sophie Tucker, Carmen Miranda, and Vera Lynn to amuse her family and friends. Her love of performing was fostered by her father. He went her to see Flora Robson perform in a Mary Stuart theatre play in 1944. "I made up my decision then and then that I was going to be an actress," Petula later recalled the night. "More than anything else, I aspired to be Ingrid Bergman." Her first performances, however, were in singing rather than acting. She performed with an orchestra in Kingston upon Thames's Bentall's department store in 1945. She received a tin of toffee as a reward for her performance. And a wristwatch made of gold. That was the start of a career that would continue to expand. The initial breakthrough. At the age of 9, Petula took her first significant move into the entertainment industry. In an attempt to communicate with her uncle who was serving abroad, she and her father were at a BBC radio transmission in October 1942. An air raid caused a delay in the broadcast. The producer asked if anyone could perform to calm the crowd. Petula took the stage once more and sang "Mighty Like a Rose." The reaction was tremendous. She was invited to perform the song again for the televised audience since they adored her. Hundreds of performances were born out of that one moment. She eventually made appearances in about 500 shows aimed at boosting the morale of British soldiers fighting the war. She became known as the singing sweetheart very fast. She even went on a UK tour with Julie Andrews, another child star. She played for military chief Bernard Montgomery, Winston Churchill, and King George VI since she was so well liked. For luck, soldiers even affixed her pictures to their tanks. She was dubbed the Shirley Temple of Britain. As her notoriety grew, other opportunities presented themselves. Filmmaker Maurice Elvey saw her in 1944 while she was performing at London's Royal Albert Hall. In his war drama Medal for the General, he portrayed her as a 12-year-old orphan. She went on to make appearances in several movies, including Here Come the Huggets, London Town, I Know Where I'm Going, and Strawberry Roan. She also collaborated with Anthony Newley on the Peter Ustinov-directed film Vice Versa, which featured Alec Guinness. She was more than just a stage and movie actress. She even appeared as radio's Merry Mimic in the comic magazine Radio Fun in 1945. Nevertheless, Petula wanted to transition into more serious work since she thought she had been playing child characters for too long, even with all the success. Her perseverance brought her to television. She had an appearance on the BBC variety show Cabaret Cartoons in 1946. She was offered her own series because of how well the performance went. Her hosting of Pet's Parlor by 1950 further increased her notoriety. She also met Joe, Mr. Piano Henderson, at this time. For over 10 years, he was both her romantic boyfriend and musical collaborator. Henderson led her to Alan A. Freeman, a record producer who founded Polygon Records with Petula's father in 1949. This was Petula's first opportunity to record music. Put Your Shoes on Lucy was her debut release. In order to find her sound, she also recorded duets with vocalist Benny Lee for Decca. In the 1950s, Petula's career truly took off. In the UK, she enjoyed a run of hits. Such songs as The Little Shoemaker, 1954, Madrid, 1955, Suddenly There's a Valley, 1955, and With All My Heart, 1956, were all hits worldwide, including number 1 in Australia. Her success around the world was only getting started. In 1955, Nixa Records, a division of Pi Records, purchased Polygon Records, the label in which her family had invested. Petula was formally signed to Pi as a result, and she remained with the company until the early 1970s. She has expressed a desire to help up-and-coming artists. Between 1955 and 1960, Joe Henderson had 5 chart singles after she urged him to record his own songs. Petula, though, was not slowing down. She soon focused her sights on Europe after exploring beyond the United Kingdom. She received an invitation to play at the Paris Olympia in 1957. One of France's most well-known locations. She was anxious when she arrived, especially because she was suffering from a severe cold. However, the audience adored her and the show was a triumph. She received an invitation to Vogue Records the following day, where she met Claude Wolff, the man who would become her husband. She was drawn to him right away. She also consented when he assured her that signing would mean working with him. Her personal and professional lives were impacted by her choice. Achieving stardom in Europe. In 1960, Petula was traveling across France and Belgium with singer Sacha Distel, who would go on to become a lifelong friend. In order to reach a wider audience throughout Europe, she started recording in French, German, Italian, and Spanish. She had hits in the UK even as she developed her career in France. Sailor, one of her songs, peaked at number 1 in Britain in 1961. Romeo and My Friend the Sea also made it into the top 10 that year. Romeo even earned a gold disc from the Recording Industry Association of America and sold over 1 million copies. She recorded the French version of Lee Dorsey's song Yaha Twist while she was in France. It turned out to be the only female twist song to achieve significant success. Chariot, which many later renamed I Will Follow Him, was another huge smash. Additionally, Petula's songs were recorded in Italian and German and were well received by listeners. She even sang Serge Gainsbourg tunes, which turned into successful sales. Petula also got a gift during this period that very few artists ever obtain. She received Un Enfant, one of Jacques Brel's original compositions. A live rendition of the song went on to chart in Canada after she sang it during their joint tour. Her abilities went beyond only singing. She composed the music for the French crime movie A Couteau Tires in 1963 and made a brief cameo appearance as the character. She then wrote the music for several movies, such as Pétain, 1989, La Bande à Babel, 1966, Entre ciel et mer, 1963, and Rêves d'enfant, 1964. Some of these ideas were published on a CD titled in her own right decades later. She became a great international sensation due to her diverse career. In 1964, 1975, and 1996, she received 3 honors on the popular show This Is Your Life. Something that has never been accomplished by many performers. She began her career in Britain during the war, but by the 1960s, she was one of the most well-liked performers in Europe. And this was just the start of the illustrious career she would lead for many years. The breakthrough in downtown. Petula Clark's British career had begun to wane by 1964. The flame was gone, yet she continued to record. When composer and arranger Tony Hatch visited her in Paris, that changed. He played a few songs, but she didn't like any of them. He then played a few chords of a song he had begun while in New York City, almost out of desperation. Petula told him right away that she wanted the song to be her next single if the lyrics matched the captivating music. Downtown was the name of that tune. They had no idea how large it would grow. Downtown, which was released in multiple languages at the end of 1964, became an international sensation. In addition to Rhodesia, it was popular in the UK, France, the Netherlands, Germany, Australia, Italy, Japan, and India. Joe Smith, an executive at Warner Brothers, heard it in London and promptly purchased the US rights. The risk was worthwhile. Downtown sold over 3 million copies in January 1965, making it the #1 album in America. Petula received her first Grammy for Best Rock and Roll Recording for the song as well. More significantly, it provided her with a completely new identity. Not only as a European vocalist but also as a global celebrity. This breakthrough was just the start, as she became one of the most well-known singers of the 1960s after a wave of singles followed Downtown. Fame, controversy, and hits. I Couldn't Live Without Your Love, Know a Place, My Love, A Sign of the Times, Don't Sleep in the Subway, and This Is My Song were among the hits that Petula released in the United States after the success of Downtown. She even received a second #1 hit in America with My Love. She had become well known. She was admitted into the Grammy Hall of Fame decades after her song I Know a Place earned her a Grammy. The albums brought with them prominence on television. Ed Sullivan and Dean Martin's American variety programs made Petula a household name. She had appearances on the Hollywood Palace, Shindig, and Hullabaloo. She staged her own musical program and received invitations to others. However, she found herself in the heart of a cultural maelstrom after appearing on one of those shows. She was asked to host a television special by NBC in 1968. Harry Belafonte was one of her visitors. They joined her in singing On the Path of Glory, one of her anti-war songs. Petula reached out and caressed Belafonte's arm throughout the performance. Fearing a backlash in the South over a white woman touching a black man on television, the show's sponsor went into a frenzy. He insisted that a safer version of the sequence be used in its place. However, Claude Wolfe, Petula's husband and the show's producer, declined. They gave the final cut while preserving the moment, destroying all subsequent takes. For days after the death of Martin Luther King Jr., the special aired, and the sponsor lost his job. Critics gave it high marks and the ratings were enormous. As a daring stand on live television, the moment is still remembered today. Additionally, it demonstrated to Petula that she was not just a singer but also a strong, independent woman. On the screen and stage, Petula was doing more than just dominating the charts in the late 1960s. She was also pursuing a career in theater and movies. In 1968, she co-starred with Fred Astaire in Finian's Rainbow, for which she was nominated for a Golden Globe. She gained widespread recognition the following year when she co-starred with Peter O'Toole in the musical Goodbye, Mr. Chips. She continued to tour the United States at the same period, playing in renowned supper clubs such as the Coconut Grove in Los Angeles and the Copacabana in New York. She was renowned for fostering fresh talent as well. She brought Michel Colombier, a French composer, to America in 1968 and introduced him to Herb Alpert. Later, Colombier rose to fame as a result of his collaborations with Prince and other artists. Additionally, Richard Carpenter gave Petula credit for bringing him and his sister Karen into contact with Alpert. This aided in the Carpenters' professional debut. Among the many celebrities with whom Petula was pals was Elvis Presley. She later chuckled at how Elvis made a fairly decent attempt at flirting with her and Karen Carpenter backstage, remarking, "He didn't have us exactly. I will no longer discuss that." She was also there when history was made. She had to deal with hecklers who didn't like her switching between French and English when she was performing in Montreal in 1969. She ended up joining Yoko Ono and John Lennon during their well-known bed in protest after asking him for help. This is how Petula's voice ended up appearing on Lennon's hymn, Give Peace a Chance, as a background vocal. Her performance in Evening with Petula was televised in color for the first time on BBC One on November 15, 1969. It was another first in her long list of accomplishments, demonstrating the numerous historic turning points in her career. Adaptability and longevity. More music emerged in the 1970s, but her priorities started to change. Melody Man, The Song of My Life, and Loving Arms were among the singles she released. She did, however, cut back in order to spend more time with her family. She started to appear frequently on television programs and even appeared as a guest on The Muppet Show. She made a spectacular comeback to the stage in 1981 when she played Maria von Trapp in London's production of The Sound of Music. Petula was dubbed the best Maria ever by Maria herself. In order to accommodate demand, Petula extended her run, and the show set records. In fact, she received a Laurence Olivier Award nomination for Best Actress in a Musical. She sang a moving rendition of For All We Know at the Royal Albert Hall in 1983 as a memorial to her friend Karen Carpenter, who had passed away 2 days earlier. Later, Petula wrote the music for the television series Someone Like You and acted in Candida. In 1993, she made her Broadway debut in Blood Brothers. Has played Sunset Boulevard's iconic character, Norma Desmond, more than 2,500 times. Highlights from her ongoing recording include the disco remix, Downtown 88, which put her back in the UK Top 10. In 1998, Queen Elizabeth II appointed her a Commander of the Order of the British Empire in recognition of her efforts. She didn't want to slow down, even as she grew older. She filmed films, recorded new records, and went on world tours. In 2019, she made a comeback to the West End stage as the Birdwoman in Mary Poppins, hosted a PBS special, and performed at the Montreux Jazz Festival. She sang I'm Still Here at the BBC's Old Friends concert in 2023. What about her private life, though? Personal matters. Petula Clark and Joe Mr. Piano Henderson were romantically involved in 1955. There was a lot of conjecture because of the link, with a lot of people anticipating their marriage. As a result of their tight collaboration, fans started to view them as a duo in both life and music. However, their relationship was beginning to suffer from celebrity. Henderson apparently didn't want to be recognized as Mr. Petula Clark, and Petula's career in France was only getting started. He eventually made the decision to leave. Despite the breakup, the two remained friends and even carried on working together. As a symbolic farewell to their professional relationship, their final effort together was the BBC radio series Pet and Mr. Piano. Henderson penned a ballad titled There's Nothing More to Say about their split years later. That chapter ended, so to speak, when Petula featured it on her LP. She quickly made new pals in the entertainment industry thanks to life. She was a witness to her close friend Charles Aznavour's 1967 wedding in Las Vegas. Opposite Sammy Davis Jr., her career path had taken a significant shift at the Paris Olympia just 10 years prior, in October 1957. She quickly received an invitation to Vogue Records after performing for the live radio program Musicorama. She met Claude Wolff, a young publicist, there. She was drawn to him right away, and she agreed to work with Wolff if she signed to record in French. Their friendship soon turned into a romantic relationship. Petula and Claude got married in June 1961, starting a family that would eventually have a son and 2 daughters. They later had 2 grandkids. Family life was both significant and difficult for Petula. She later acknowledged that she was unable to spend as much time with her children as she would have liked because of her hectic schedule. She publicly revealed in 2013 that she and Wolff were no longer romantically together. Their past, however, was nonetheless extensive and enduring. A significant chapter in Wolff's personal life came to an end on March 20, 2024, when she tragically departed away. Home, choices, and beliefs. Petula Clark's views on politics and belonging were also mirrored in her personal life. When Margaret Thatcher was elected as Britain's first female prime minister in 1979, Petula congratulated her via telegraph. "Congratulations," she wrote, expressing her happiness for both you and Britain. She even gave a performance at a gathering for young conservatives that year. Her opinions, nevertheless, were never confined to one side. She demonstrated that her support could transcend political boundaries in 2002 when she went to a fundraiser for Labour Prime Minister Tony Blair. Her genuine sense of belonging stayed in her personal life and outside of politics throughout it all. Petula has lived permanently in Geneva, Switzerland, since the 1960s. She maintained her equilibrium while performing all around the world because to the serene surroundings. Living with her husband's children and eventually her grandkids, Geneva also gave her family time. She also owned a home in Chelsea, London, and a chalet in the French Alps, where she enjoyed skiing. Her European-inspired yet globally connected lifestyle was represented in these residences. As her work developed, she found stability in her family and houses, but her health would soon present its own set of difficulties and dramatic times. Resilience and health. Petula Clark was accustomed to medical scares, despite leading an active and healthy life. She talked about the biggest health issue she had as a young woman in an interview with the Daily Mail. She needed an emergency procedure to remove her appendix when she was 21. The procedure was meant to fix the issue, but instead it made things worse. As Petula remembered, I underwent an emergency operation at age 21 to remove my appendix. After that, I was in excruciating pain that just got worse. When they had to cut me open again 6 months later, they discovered that I had developed internal adhesions around the scar tissue, which had become gangrenous. During the urgent treatment, doctors removed a portion of her intestine. It was a scary event for her parents. I've never had any issues there since, she recalled, but my parents were inconsolable. The scar is only a faded couple of inches. She could have suffered long-term health problems as a result of the experience, but she recovered completely. She has stayed incredibly healthy ever since. She continued to describe herself as strong and active at the age of 89. She was able to keep up her fitness by living in Geneva. She acknowledged that she loved being active in her mountain cabin and frequently ran upstairs. She chuckled, saying she didn't have any issues with wobbly knees. She clarified that she never used a lot of vitamins or medicines and that she had only ever tried the Atkins diet once in her life to reduce her postpartum weight. Petula Clark came out stronger despite the risk she encountered at age 21. Although the tragic scar served as a reminder of the danger, she went on to have an active and resilient life. Her narrative demonstrated not only her skill but also her will to keep going forward in both her job and her health. The music that made all the difference. Petula Clark's song Downtown peaked at #1 on the US charts in January 1965. The song was about going into the city to escape everyday concerns and finding happiness in the Loudon Lights. In addition to appearing in TV series like Lost and Seinfeld and movies like Girl Interrupted, it earned her a Grammy Award for Best Rock and Roll Recording. However, the origin narrative was straightforward. At the time, Petula and her French husband were residing in Paris. Singing in German, Italian, and French, she was already well known throughout Europe. Then she was visited by Tony Hatch, a young producer at London's Pi Records. He advised her to record in English as well. She was initially not persuaded. "We need to find the right song, but I'm fine the way I am," she remarked. Hatch took a seat at the piano and started to play a song he had recently begun to compose. "That is one great tune," Petula recalled, as I returned to the room with the tea. "Are you able to write lyrics that are as good as the music?" "I'll give it a damn good try," he said. "Well, then I'll do it," I said. They recorded in London's city 2 weeks later. Neither of them anticipated the song's explosive success. Took center stage. Downtown's release was a huge success. It immediately gained popularity not just in the United States but also in Canada, Australia, and other countries. They were ill-prepared for its triumph, Petula explained. "We were unaware that we had captured a monster on video. All of a sudden, it became popular worldwide. The moment was ideal." Petula was drawn into what became known as the British invasion after the Beatles had already provided opportunities for British performers in America. Soon, she was being begged to go on programs like The Ed Sullivan Show. She performed in America's downtown for the first time in New York. She was jet-weary and had just come from Paris. No rehearsal was held. In front of an orchestra and live crowd, she strode directly onto the stage. The orchestra began playing the song too quickly to heighten the nerves, but the audience didn't mind. When I stepped onto the stage, everyone cheered and rose up, Petula recalled. Her passion for American audiences began at that point, but there were obstacles to overcome in order to succeed. She already had a hectic profession with contracts across Europe. America was now demanding not only New York but also Los Angeles and Las Vegas. She had 2 small children at home as well. She clarified that my life was actually pretty complicated, but in a wonderful way. She thought her kids would learn a lot from traveling, even with the stress. They grew up remembering a childhood full of adventures that most children never have. The song's backstory. Downtown evolved into more than just a successful album throughout the years. People started to live with it. Petula revealed that her admirers frequently shared personal anecdotes with her about the song's meaning. Some Vietnam War troops told her, "Your song gave us courage to keep going and helped us." When you first record a song, you never know how deeply it will touch people, she said. From it, each listener learns something new. Some people used it as an escape song to help them forget their problems. It became associated with significant memories for others. The song endured for decades because of its potency. According to Petula, she never thought it would travel so far. She was just concerned about doing well and carrying out her duties at the time. She eventually realized, however, that music could provide solace and optimism outside of the recording studio. Additionally, her music spread much farther because she had already established a career in other languages. "I am English, but I fell in love with a Frenchman," she clarified. "I therefore moved to France to reside. I had to sing in French after I became famous in France. After that, I was asked to sing in Italian and then German by the Italians. It spread, sort of, little by little. Additionally, I enjoy singing in Italian. It is the language of opera, let's face it." Her talent to sing in multiple languages set her apart and allowed her to perform for audiences around the globe. Singing today. Petula Clark continued to perform well into her older years. She continued to travel and even sleep on a tour bus while touring the United States in her 80s. "I just love doing it," she said candidly when asked why she continued. "That's the main cause. I find it difficult to envision my life without it." Acting was more than simply a job to her. There was happiness, a sense of community, and even a spiritual component. "Nothing compares to the connection between what's happening on stage and what's happening in the crowd," she clarified. "Some sort of communion takes place. And the sensation is nearly spiritual." She was still preparing for her next big moment at the age of 92. She hinted that a live performance with a full orchestra was being planned in London. It was still exciting to her. Petula Clark was demonstrating that the passion for music and performing never fades, 60 years after Downtown transformed her life. Generations had heard her narrative, her songs, and her voice. Her love for singing kept her on stage for decades with no signs of slowing down, even if the world only knew her from one song. Which of Petula Clark's songs is your favorite? Is it one of her other masterpieces or Downtown? Please leave a comment below with your opinions, and remember to hit like, subscribe, and follow for more amazing tales from the interesting history of Hollywood. I'll see you later.